Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goals empower you to live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, and I truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. Each episode is designed to inspire, motivate, and equip you with the tools you need to embrace life fully and fearlessly. So let's embark on this journey together toward audacity and purpose. Now, think of life as a vast ocean. At times, the waters are calm, and you glide effortlessly across the surface, enjoying the sunshine and the gentle waves. But there will be inevitably storms. Adversity will challenge your resolve and push you off course. Now, just as a skilled sailor, learns to navigate through those rough waters, we too can embrace adversity as an essential part of our journey. Emotional awareness acts as our compass, guiding us through the storms of life, while positive actions serve as the wind in our sails, propelling us towards happiness. Mindset shifts are akin to adjusting our sails, allowing us to harness the power of gratitude to steer us toward personal growth and fulfillment. In today's episode, we'll delve into these themes with our guest, Matt O'Neill. He's a recognized happiness expert and author. The book is called The Good Mood Revolution, Igniting the Power of Conscious Happiness. I was fortunate enough to get a copy of the book, and it is a great read, without question. With years of experience in the field of personal development, Matt has dedicated his career to helping individuals unlock true potential that's inside them and cultivate lasting happiness. His work emphasizes on the significance of emotional awareness, the transformative power of gratitude, and the importance of taking action in a positive manner especially in the face of adversity. His insights are particularly relevant to our discussion today, as they align perfectly with our theme of embracing adversity and fostering emotional resilience. His unique perspective on happiness and personal growth will provide us with practical strategies to navigate life's challenges effectively. So now that we've got you all set, let's turn to our conversation with Matt. Enjoy. Hey, Matt, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to do this, my friend.
Audley, I am so freaking stoked to be here with you, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited about this.
No, this is good. This is good. I appreciate you as well. I know we were going back and forth for a while leading up to this, and this is scheduled way, back long ago. And now that we're here, well, it actually felt like so long ago that we did, but now that we're here, we're ready to go. And I love your work around happiness, and the fact that you identify yourself as a happiness expert, I think is just so awesome. It's interesting because I think a lot of people, and we certainly will get into this, but I think oftentimes a lot of people just assume that there's no work to become happy, that it just kind of just happens. So for you to identify, this is what I am, and here's how I do it, and here's how I show people and assist others, I think is a phenomenal thing, because life is life, and life will do lifing stuff to us, and it'll wear us down, weather us, and cause us to lose sight of that happiness. And so it's great the work that you do. We'll talk about your book as well, which you kind enough to send me a copy. But maybe as a starting point, we've opened up the door. Let's open up the door, get you to come in and explain to our audience a little bit about you, your work, and what got you to this point.
Man, I'll tell you what, happiness takes a lot of work. I say that, of course, there's days of our lives that it doesn't take any work to be happy. Right. Like the birth of my child, right? I've got 4 kids. All those days were euphoric days, stressful for sure. The day that I married my wife, didn't take any work for me to be happy on that day, but I was nervous too. Like, I was so nervous back in that room with the pastor before she came out. I actually got really scared about how heavy that day was, like that this is going to be a life-changing day. I didn't expect to be nervous, but then once we were married and we said I do, it was just one of those magical days. But that's only 5 days, four births and 1 marriage, right? What about all the other days? What about Monday? What about Tuesday? What about hump day? Oh man, it's hump day. Man, Thursday, we still got to work hard on Thursday. And then Sunday, I could get anxious that I got to go back to work again on Monday. What about all those days? How do we be happy on those days? And especially, how do we be happy when things aren't going right?
Right.
And that takes work and it takes effort. And there are definite happiness is a skill. It gets better with effort. We just don't know how to practice it. The way that we always think we need to practice it is we say, I'll just try to recreate these days that made me happy where everything went the way I wanted it to. Man, that's impossible. So especially when we're trying to live audacious. If we're going for our goals, it's going to be messy. It just is. Yesterday, a vendor of mine that contributes money to my company said, hey, he called me up and he said, hey, I can't do that. I can't contribute money to your company anymore. And I said, man, we've been working together for a long time. I said, I still have to continue to spend this money because we have to provide opportunities for the people that work here.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Right.
Right. Him saying, hey, we're going to pull back this $50,000, a $50,000 conversation. We lost 50,000 in that conversation. How do you be happy when you lose 50,000? That's a lot of money to lose in one phone conversation. And then somebody, I expected this person to be at a meeting and she said, hey, I can't be at this meeting. She's my right-hand person. And I said, this meeting's really important. She said, I can't be there. So I got two different pieces of news yesterday morning that weren't what I wanted. And that's the interesting thing is that we think we're going to be happy when everything's going the way we want it to go.
Right.
Well, it's easy to be happy when everything's going the way we want it to go. It's harder to be happy when things aren't going the way we want it to go. That's where we have to have some happiness habits and some perspective in our life is to say, okay, if I let these two situations, this person not showing up when I need her to show up, and then this guy backing down on $50,000 that we need to continue to run our operation, if I let that drop my mood into the basement, who am I going to be for my family that night? I'm going to be a bad dad. I'm going to be a bad husband. How am I going to serve the rest of the people that work with me if I get all in a negative mood? I might snap at them. I might be all sad. I might not be able to get off the couch. I might not be able to get out of bed. If I can't get out of bed, what kind of a leader am I? Right? So being happy isn't just about, oh, this feels good. It's about showing up as your best self. So I'll take you through the process that I use when I get some disappointing news.
Yeah. And man, I think that's a really important point to be able to recognize the other areas of your life that potentially can be impacted by not showing up as your best self, right? And I think the family is a fantastic example. You think about, you leave your home that morning, you kiss your wife, kids goodbye, you go off into the day, right? They know, all they know is, hey, dad's coming back at the end of the day. You come back after a tough day, bad news, lost a client, all sorts of things happen. You now aren't that same person. And the impact is, okay, and especially with children, they don't understand the big wide world and all the challenges that exist or the things that can happen to impact us. So to be able to consciously say, no, I still need to show up. I still need to be that dad or that husband. That in itself, that awareness piece is a huge element to what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. So and you're right, Audley. Step one, you have to be aware. So I was aware that I was agitated and that I was disappointed and that I was sad and that I was fearful. So we have to be aware. There's only 8 negative emotions. I talk about them in my book. I just named off a few of them there. But there's only 8 ways we can feel bad. I was feeling like 3 or 4 of them at the same time. Angry. Yeah, I was angry that this person in my company wasn't showing up. That showed up as kind of frustration or disappointment. And then fearful because we're losing money now that we thought that we were counting on. So awareness is step one. And then step 2, once we have awareness, is to say, there's a positive mood I talk about, which is acceptance. Acceptance says, hey, this is happening in the outside world. Yes, I have to deal with it, but I accept that it's happening.
Right.
A lot of times our unhappiness comes because we resist it. And we're like, that shouldn't be happening. That guy shouldn't have treated me like that. He shouldn't have backed out on his commitment. That girl, she should have honored her commitment. She should have said that she was going to show up. I asked her to show up and she said she would, and now she's not. So as we resist, whatever we're resisting, that's when we have a really negative mood. So step one was awareness. Step two is acceptance. So I said to myself, this is happening. What am I going to do about it? And then we start to take positive action. As soon as we just admit it, hey, this is happening, I have to deal with it, I accept it, what am I going to do about it? That starts to move us in a positive direction. It's just the suffering from resisting it that harms us. So I sat down and I said, okay, what am I going to do about it? I said, well, this guy's backing out. Do I know anybody that could take his place? And so I called another vendor of ours and I said, hey, would you meet me Friday morning? I've got an opportunity I want to discuss with you. Would you meet me Friday morning? He said, I'd be happy to. So I set the appointment. As soon as I set an appointment to move myself forward in a positive direction, guess what? I felt better. So I didn't wallow. I could have easily just wallowed. I've certainly done that before. But I took some positive action. Now, that appointment may or may not turn out the way I want it to, and it'll be the same exact process over again. And then I'll take more positive action and say, what else could I do to improve my situation? With the girl that didn't show up, man, she was doing something else for my company. She was helping out somebody that needed help. That's why she wasn't showing up. So I got some perspective and I said, how could I be grateful for this girl? How could I be grateful for what she's doing rather than disappointed in what she's not doing? And gratitude, once we go from acceptance, the next spot we want to go is gratitude. So I did. I said, I'm grateful for her because she's showing up for somebody that needs her. Now, she's making the best decision she can. She's prioritizing this other person over her commitment she made to me. She's doing that for a reason. It's not that I'm not worthy or that I'm not good enough. It's that she's trying to help somebody that's struggling. So I moved into gratitude with her. And at that point in time, this was all yesterday, my mood came back. And then when I got home with my kids, I'm like having so much fun. I'm having a great time and I'm my best self. And it's just in a microcosm, this is how we be happy.
So oftentimes, and I've used this analogy on the podcast several times, and the regular listeners will be like, we've heard this before, Audley, but it's so fitting because if you think of life like a series of hills and valleys, right? And so as you're going through that continuum of life, there's going to be dips and you're going to go down the valley. But then at times you'll be at top of the hill. And on top of the hill is where things are great. There's happiness, fulfillment, there's satisfaction, a great place to be. Everyone's celebrating. Life is grand. In the valley, as you come down, there are going to be disappointments, hurts, failures, setbacks, pain. All those things exist. And I think, and so what I often encourage individuals to do is, as much as possible, is to first off, not deny that they're in the valley, right? You got to accept that you're there. And we accept it. We just said as the first piece here, but accept that you're there, but find ways to get yourself out of that valley as quick as you can. And it's going to be different for every single one of us, if there are things that you like to do, a habit you like, or hobbies that you enjoy, and that gives you excitement. I mean, I love podcasting, right? And so, podcasting charges me, find ways to podcast. I'm going through a downtime because will kind of build me back up. And so, I think that's very fitting in line with what we're talking about here, because that seems to be kind of how life goes, right? It just continues and dips and ups and dips and ups, but that's kind of how it fluctuates.
Yeah, there's a truth that I've discovered, and that's absolutely everything is working out for my benefit. So when we're in the valley, we're in the valley for my benefit. And when we're on top of the hill, we're on top of the hill for my benefit. When we're in the climb, we're on the climb for my benefit. When we're on the decline, we're in the decline for my benefit. This is hard to accept when we're going through a hard time. It's hard to accept it when we're in the valley. It's actually helping us, but it is. So I've got a really cool exercise that I always take people through when we're talking about the ups and downs of life, is to show them that the downs are actually helping them. Oddly, think back on a pretty challenging time in your life. Do you have one that's come to mind?
Yeah. I,
Well,
I got a bevy to choose from, Matt.
what was it? What's the challenging moment?
I'm going through a divorce.
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's a
For sure.
really tough. There's a lot of negative emotions that show up in that one. Now that was for your benefit, of course. With hindsight, when you were going through it, it probably felt like torture.
Totally. Totally.
I
And,
mean,
I love the hindsight perspective, because you're right. You see things differently. You understand things about yourself differently, and you recognize that there's good that comes out of that. And oftentimes that perspective allows you to see an opportunity to elevate past from where you were before.
well, let's stick with this. So when you were going through the divorce, what was so hard about it in the moment? Like if you could take yourself back there, what felt just really hard?
I think just the finality, right? I think marriages are a lot of work, right? And so the finality of that, it's challenging for sure. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, it's like there's probably some grieving. Like I had a picture that I was going to be with this person for this time, and
Right.
then that's not there. And then there's also some feelings of maybe disappointment that you failed. Like, man,
Mhm, mhm.
what was it that I couldn't make this happen? And so, but all of this stuff, if we think about it, is just thoughts. So the thing that was harming you was not the divorce. It was your thoughts about it.
That's right.
Now, after the divorce, how long has it been?
Oh, so 7 years.
7 years, so a long time. Now that you have the perspective, what were the gifts in it?
So when I look at where I am, it allowed me to certainly have empathy for others going through the process. Um, I've certainly been able to aid quite a few people in some of my coaching work. I had the opportunity to talk with a lot of men who are going through similar, or if not the exact same challenges, and so having that experience come. So I oftentimes say that if you go through an experience and you don't pick up the lesson, then you've made a mistake. And so I've been able, and to my credit, I believe that I've been able to take those lessons as I've moved through this process, or moved through that process, and have now armed myself. And again, it just has provided wonderful perspective that I've been able to share with others.
And and I think it's beautiful what you just said. There is no other way you could have gained that empathy.
Right.
There's no other way you could have gained the insights to coach these men other than going through what you went through.
Hmm. Hmm.
You couldn't have. You
Right.
could you could have read all the books about what it's like to go through a divorce. You could have watched movies about what it's like to go through divorce. You could have talked with other people about what it's like, but until you go through it and experience it, you really can't understand it. And so your soul was actually enriched with this experience, and you used it in a beautiful way to say, "Oh, I'm going to give empathy and compassion and support to all these people. And now that I've had that experience, I can help them. I could shepherd other people that are going through that pain and get them to the other side, get them to the light." So in the end, even the most challenging situation that you could think of, that divorce, was helping you become your greatest you yet. This, if now, and I hope our listener is thinking the same thing about their most challenging
Mhm.
situation, that because of that situation, this happened and this happened and this happened. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't know what I know. And I don't want to go through it again, but I also wouldn't take back the gifts and the growth I got. So, wow, okay, maybe all of our challenges are actually there to help us become our greatest version of us. And it's the adversity that makes us better. Okay, if we get that point, then it's a very important one to get to be happy. The next time adversity shows up, like it did for me yesterday, you get to say, oh, this is helping me become my greatest me yet, too. So, can I bless the challenge as I go through it this time? I don't need to fight it. I fought it on the last time. I resisted it on the last time. I had all this pain and suffering because I said, hey, this shouldn't be happening. We were supposed to have this big future together. I'm a failure. All those thoughts that were harming me weren't even true. I just suffered as I went through what was going to be a very good experience for me. In my book, I talk about a blacksmith. A blacksmith takes a piece of iron and throws it in the fire. And then they pull it out of the fire and then they beat it with a hammer over and over and over. And then they turn it into something beautiful. Well, that's what God does to us. God throws us in the fire and then we get beat over and over and over to become something beautiful. So that's the forging process of us.
Yeah.
Could we say thank you to God while we go through the forging process, saying, I know this isn't comfortable. I don't want to be going through the fire right now, but I accept the fire. And thank you, God, for helping me become something I couldn't become without this challenge. This is happiness mastery. If we can get to saying thank you as we go through challenges, we really have mastered how to be happy.
Well, I think a big part of that is separating the emotion from the experience, which is the toughest thing in the world to do. And I'm not suggesting that, hey, just do it and you're fine. It's something that over time, practice, repetition, which means you're going to go through more challenges to get there. But the point really is, once you can make that distinction between the emotions of how I feel about what happened to me and what happened to me, I think that gets us closer pointing that direction that you're talking about in terms of happiness mastery.
Yeah, absolutely. And the emotions are real for sure. The emotions come from how we're thinking. So it's the story we're telling ourselves. This is really interesting too. I had a very painful experience just a couple of years ago. A business partner of mine, I've been working together with him for 10 years. We were really tight. We met every single week. And we were good friends, and we would go out after work together, and his family and my family knew each other. We'd get dinner. And then he decided that he would, break up with me. And not, we weren't in a relationship, we were in a work relationship, right? Yep. And I said, okay, well, I'm sad about this. I'm sad, but I respect you want to go do your own thing. I get it. But then I felt like he betrayed me. He started to call people that worked for me and say, hey, don't work for him anymore. I could do better than he can. And 25% of my company left. And if every single person that showed up in my office and said, hey, I'm going to go work with that guy that you used to work with, it was like the dagger went deeper in my back. Well, think about the language I'm using right now. Dagger going deeper in my back. What story was I telling myself? That
betrayed, right?
That I was betrayed, that this shouldn't be happening, that he shouldn't act that way, that these people shouldn't, and all I was doing was resisting. And I was telling myself this big story that none of this should happen and that he shouldn't act that way, that he should act in a different way. All of that shouldn't, me thinking the world should be a certain way when it wasn't, was creating all of my suffering. And it was deep, man. I suffered a lot. At the same time, we were losing a ton of money because of it. Like $90,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, then this fear is showing up. Like I might lose my house and my kids won't have a place to sleep. And I'm like, why is he doing this to me? Right? This was a question I was asking myself. Well, I was thinking all that stuff. It's like, okay, we'll just separate the emotions from the experience. I couldn't. The emotions were so strong. What I had to do was move into acceptance. I had to look myself in the mirror. I had to say, hey, this is happening. This is happening, and it's probably happening because of some of the things I'm doing. These 25% of people, they're not just leaving because I'm such a great guy and a great leader. They're leaving because they think something could be better out there than what I'm providing. How have I not been showing up? This is the hardest thing to do, is to look ourselves in the mirror and say, this is on me too. He's not doing this to me 100%. I'm doing this to myself in some ways. How have I not showed up for these people? That's kind of the same thing with a divorce too, is a lot of times I'll hear people going through a tough situation and they want to blame the spouse and say,
Sure.
it's because of them. They did this. They're a dirty, rotten scoundrel, right? They did. Well, it's fine, but when we're blaming somebody, we got a finger pointed to them, we got three pointed back at ourselves. As soon as we look in the mirror and say, I'm going to take responsibility for my piece in this, maybe I wasn't a good enough partner to him. Maybe I harmed him in some way, and now he feels like he needs to get revenge on me.
Gotcha.
Some of that was true, man. So as soon as I flipped it around and I said, all right, let me stop worrying about him and start worrying about me. How could I be better? How could I serve the people that stayed here better? We started to turn around. That took me like 3 months though. It took me 3 months of suffering before I got to that point.
I think suffering is a great word because we absolutely put ourselves through a lot to get to that point. I'm assuming it's not a step-by-step process we're talking about here. This is some, and it's gonna be very for individuals, I would imagine too, right, Matt? Like it's not gonna be we don't it's not do these three things and you're good. We're individually come in at different entry points, right? And so that will influence kind of what that process looks like for us individually.
Oh man, the entry point. That's such a fun thought, Audley. I love you brought that up. I feel like we're born with different entry points.
Mm,
Some people are born with, you say, oh, that's an old soul. You know, like some kids, you're like, man, that kid's just an old soul. That kid might have come in with a higher entry point. I think we all come in at different entry points. I think that we're eternal beings, and it just like, how much have we learned before we got to this particular piece of eternity that we're living through? No one's better or worse. It's just some people are just a little further along on this development. There actually is. So in my book, I talk about the progression of moods. It's 16 different levels of consciousness. The lowest entry point that we can come in at is where my dad came in, and that's in the entry point of shame. And we all experience it, but the lowest mood is shame. And this is the feeling that I'm not enough.
right.
There's something wrong with me. I'm not as good as other people. Other people, I believe when they tell me that there's something wrong with me or I'm not as good as the rest of society. That emotion is the most destructive one. And it's not true. That's crazy. So the 8 negative themes of consciousness, the 8 negative moods in my book on the progression of moods are all lies. They're not even true. That's what's crazy.
There's
So
nothing to substantiate them at all. They were just developed and we went with it.
yeah. Somebody might have said, hey, like I just heard a story yesterday. I was at a speakers conference, and this guy was going to go to college. He got a scholarship to go to Ohio State to run track. And he told his guidance counselor, hey, I got this scholarship. And his guidance counselor sat him down and she said, you should pass on that scholarship. You should let that money go to somebody who can actually use it. You're not smart enough to get a college education from Ohio State. And he went and walked out of that counselor's room and put his head down, and he wondered, am I not smart enough to go to that university? If he had believed what she said, shame would have won. But instead he said, this is audacious. He had the audacity to say, maybe I am. This is my opportunity. Somebody gave me this opportunity for a reason. I'm going to take it. He took it. He graduated from Ohio State. Then he got his master's degree from Ohio State. Then he got his doctorate from Ohio State. And now he is a doctor that helps children who can't hear again. And so was it true? Shame is never true. This idea that we're not enough, that's never true. So somebody has said it, maybe not in words like they said it to this guy, but somebody has said it to you before. And it's like, am I going to believe that garbage, or am I going to know that I'm actually enough as I am? And if I work hard enough at what I want, I can accomplish things. It might take time. It might take a lot of effort, but I'm capable of doing what I put my mind to. That's a truth. That's a truth. So yeah, the steps are get out of shame. The next one is guilt. Our whole world's obsessed with guilt.
Yes.
guilt and judgment are the same thing. So anytime, and we see it on TV right now, man, with these elections, one side's judging the other side's judging the other.
Yep.
You get into a political conversation, they're like, that person's a scoundrel, and they say that person's awful. All that judgment is just our own guilt.
That's right.
What if nobody's bad? What if everybody's doing the best they can?
Mm.
What if both sides want the best for our country?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, once we start to see it from that lens, we're healing this guilt.
Yes.
Now, people may do things that harm others. I'm not going to say they don't. They do things that harm others when they feel bad. So only when we feel bad inside do we create bad outside. Well, when we feel good inside, we create good outside. So we don't need to judge them and make them feel worse. All that's going to do is make them do worse. What we need to do is lift up humanity, make them feel loved and supported and whole. And when somebody feels really happy, guess what? They go out and make other people happy too. So all that judgment, so that we catch our guilt when we're judging people. As soon as I judge someone, and I do it all the time, just like we all do, I'm like, all right, do I want to be in a bad mood right now?
That's right. I think of just the idea of giving the benefit of the doubt. Like, what if we automatically, before we came to any sort of conclusion, we automatically gave the benefit of the doubt? Right? How different would that be? So, similar to your point, what if we assumed everyone was good and everyone wanted the best for the country? Like, it's that same, that again, that instead of going to that negative place right away, what if it's this? What if what if this person was just having a really bad day because something terrible happened to them? And so when you start getting into those what if, right, and you're allowing for possibilities, and when you allow for possibilities, anything can happen at that point.
Now we got the naysayer that's going to be like, yeah, Audley, well, what if you give somebody the benefit of the doubt and then they rob you?
Yeah. Listen, in the world of life, there are going to be bad things that happen to us. I don't think, and if someone's got it figured out, I don't think anyone has a formula to stop bad stuff from happening. I don't think anyone's got that figured out. So we have to go into this with this understanding that I said earlier. I said life will life us, right? So life is going to life at some point, and it's not so much what happens to us; it's our response to it.
Yep. I always say being happy doesn't mean you became stupid.
I like that.
So just because I want to give somebody the benefit of the doubt doesn't mean I also don't have my wisdom. And it doesn't mean I also don't have my wits about me to say, hey, if I put myself in a compromised position to be stolen from, that's on me. Kind of the same thing I said with that guy that I thought was betraying me. What if he was just doing the best he could for his family? What if the people that wanted to go work with him, they just wanted to work with him because I wasn't being who I needed to be? So I gave him the benefit of the doubt. And I said, hey, what if this is just a good buddy of mine that's doing the best he can? And then what I need to do is just do the best I can. And then I shored things up. So rather than judging him for stealing from me, I decided that he was a good guy and I just needed to be better myself. And so I did. Once I got better myself, people quit going. So benefit of the doubt is beautiful. It's just a story we tell ourselves. Like, all right, hey, these people, those Republicans, they're awful people. They want the worst for the country. Or those Democrats, they're awful people. They want the worst for the country. No, everyone wants the best for the country, man. I got friends that are Republicans. I got friends that are Democrats. They both want the best country they can live in.
Yep.
So that, yeah, I mean, that's like, we just need to get out of the negativity and then move into the positivity. So the positivity, I'll just give you the easiest step I can for positivity. It's gratitude. So every morning I practice gratitude and I say, thank you when I wake up. So my first thought when my foot hits the ground is thank you. And my feet hit the ground through the house, I go, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We can't be hateful when we're grateful. So I'm like saying thank you all the time. Before I eat any meal, I pray to God and I say, thank you for this food. This is just simple little ways that I'm like, all right, once I get into gratitude, I already have everything I need. And once I'm feeling grateful, from that point, I could start to feel happy. And so that's my simplest way to get back to happiness.
Gotcha. And I think that, and there's beauty in the simplicity, and I absolutely love that. I think that's wonderful. You found what works for you, and I think, and what I would encourage individuals is, again, what you've described is what worked for you. I've talked about kind of things I've done that works for me. They've got to do that for themselves and go through their own process. It may be similar, it may be different. It's still
There are a few universal things.
Mhm.
Gratitude's universal.
Yeah, yeah,
So maybe not praying before meals is the way you want to express gratitude. Maybe it's you want to write down gratitude in a journal about the things you're grateful for. But if we're not consciously working on our gratitude, our mind is going to work on what's not enough. It's going to say, that's not enough. That person was mean. That's not going the way I want it to. Our mind's always scanning for what's not right. We have to counteract that negativity. And again, our mind's not bad. Our mind, to survive, we had to say things aren't right. And so our mind's always looking for what's not right so that we can protect ourselves from it. It's still just doing its job. But if we don't counter what's not right with what is right, we'll run into straight negativity and we'll always be negative. So gratitude is universal practice that will make us all happier. Another universal practice that will make us all happier is moving our bodies.
yeah. Mhm.
I haven't met anyone that is the happiest person alive that isn't doing some type of physical activity.
Good point.
When we walk outside, or we go lift weights, or we play a sport, or whatever, and it doesn't matter what movement you do, you take a cycling class, whatever movement you do, yoga, right? That increases your happiness. And I like to think of it this way, is that God gave us these limbs. We got legs, we got arms, we got a heart, it can race. The more we use the gifts he gave us, the more he gifts us back in terms of our mood. So it's like I had a neuroscientist I talked to one time, and he was studying how not to be depressed. And he said, if you don't want to be depressed, run a marathon. He said the process of training for a marathon means that you have to exercise at least 4 times a week. It's really hard to be depressed when you're exercising 4 times a week. So those are a couple of the universal. Audley, what are the things that make you the happiest?
Um, I love podcasting, Matt. I tell you, I love podcasts. I love connecting. So it's not necessarily the podcasting itself, it's the ability to connect with others and glean insights and knowledge and information. It is,
That's also universal.
yeah,
Not necessarily podcasting, but what you
no,
said is
yeah,
connecting with human
that's right.
beings.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely,
That is a
absolutely.
universal happiness
Hmm.
enhancer. So when we're unhappy or if we're depressed, what do we typically do? We isolate.
That's correct. That's right. That's right.
And we're like, well, I don't feel like it. I don't want to get out of bed today. I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm just going to put on TV. I'm going to scroll social media, but I'm not actually going to connect with anyone. Well, get out. Get out of the house. Go meet somebody. I know you don't want to meet somebody,
Right,
but
right.
Audley just gave you a tip that when you're connecting with people,
That's
it's another one of these universal things that we were meant to have relationships. And so when we connect with other people, it always makes us feel better.
the other thing that I find I do is lean into sort of my strengths, right? So if I'm able to use my strengths and my skills and abilities in the benefit of others, that helps me feel good about
Mm.
myself, right?
Oh,
And
dude,
so
you just hit on another one, dude. So these are
they
universal. And this is what I like to say is that happiness isn't a mystery. There are universal things that if anyone exercises, they feel better every time. You exercise, you feel better. There's no doubt about it. You feel better after the exercise than you did before you started. It's just the way it is. You practice authentic gratitude, you feel better every time. You have a deep connection with somebody, you always feel better. It could be your dog. You feel better. They've proven this, that if you have a dog, your happiness is up because you connect with an animal. But then this other one that you just said, you're saying, hey, I'm going to utilize my strengths by helping other people. Every single time we help somebody, we feel better. You hold the door for someone, you get a hit. You smile at somebody and they smile back, you get a hit. You do something big like, oh man, kids with cancer, I'm going to go volunteer at Make-A-Wish, and you go make somebody's wish come true. You get a huge hit of positivity. So yeah, these are, man, you're hitting on all of them.
Well, and I think there's a reason, why because they work. There's something to them. It's not just I've crafted this in my basement. Look what I got, guys. It's good. Again, they're universal, as you said. Um, that's fantastic, Matt. Let's can we? Is this a good opportunity to talk about your book and sort of, because I know that a lot, well, all of these things I've seen it. All of these things are encapsulated. You talked about those 8 moods, and we sort of have. I think we've. It feels like we've danced through all of them. I think. I mean, that's what we missed.
Yeah. Yeah. So that the ways we feel bad are also universal. This makes us, it actually, in my book, I talk about the 8 universal negative moods. Oddly, when you feel anger, it feels the same way in you as it feels in me. You might express it a little bit different than I express it, but that feeling of anger, we're going to have this same type of experience if we're angry. A feeling of sadness. I mean, you universally will feel sadness in your life. I will too. We're going to feel very similar in these moods. So in my book, I talk about the 8 negative moods. When we're going through one, there's nothing wrong with us. We're just in a universal thought pattern that all humanity experiences. And in my book, I talk about how to get out of each one. Mm-hmm. So if we all universally can get in the same emotion, we can all universally get out of it in the same way. And that's a truth as well. So I talk about the mindset shifts to get out of the negative moods. And then I talk about the ways and we've just been describing it, to stay in positive moods. So when we find ourselves in a negative mood, we need to identify which one of the 8 is it? How do I get out of it? And then what do I do to get happy again? And that's what the book's about.
Got you. For listeners that want to connect with you directly or pick a copy of get a copy of their book, where can we send them?
Yeah, the book's on Amazon. It's called Good Mood Revolution: Igniting the Power of Conscious Happiness. And then the best way to connect, man, people are listening to Audacious Living, one of the top podcasts in the world.
Thank you.
People who listen to great podcasts typically are looking for another great one too. So I've got a podcast called Good Mood Revolution. And so the best way to connect is to go get a good mood every week by listening to my show too. And then we can move on from there.
I don't see how it's possible and will not have to be in a good mood after listening to you.
Same, dude. Your energy is phenomenal, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Matt, this has been awesome, man. Really been awesome. I'm glad that we did this. The work that you're doing and spreading is awesome. Very important. And it's interesting because a lot of people, we talked about earlier about simplicity, right? The simplicity of your message is something people can gravitate to quickly and understand. And so it's a beautiful part of what you're doing. So congratulations on the good work. Thank you for being on the Audacious Living Podcast, man. This has been awesome.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate it. And I've got my alarm to play basketball on Monday. And you know what song it is? It's Bob Marley, Don't Worry About a Thing.
Love it. I love it.
That's a mantra to live by right there, man.
There you go.
Don't worry about a thing. And that's what I would leave us on too, is that we talked about how all these negative events we worry about are actually helping us become our greatest version yet. So there's really no need to worry about them as we go through them.
Very cool. Matt, this is awesome. Take care of yourself, my friend.
See you, bro.
We're back. We are here on the podcast. And, during our conversation with Matt, he shared that happiness is not merely a product of our circumstances, but rather a skill we can cultivate through awareness and action. He emphasized the importance of recognizing negative moods and shifting our mindset to embrace acceptance and gratitude. I was particularly touched by his personal stories of navigating adversity, reminding us that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to choose how we respond. What I love most about the interview with Matt was his authenticity and his ability to connect personal experience with powerful lessons. You know, his passion for helping others find happiness is truly inspiring, and I encourage you to connect with Matt directly for more insights and supports on your journey to happiness. You can find him on social media as well as his website, and I'll make sure all the links are in the show notes below. Additionally, Matt is offering a special promotion for listeners of the Audacious Living Podcast. You can get a discount off his book, Good Mood Revelation, when you purchase through his website. Make sure to check that out. It's a great offer. I want to thank you for joining us today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I hope you found inspiration and actionable insights to help you live your best audacious life. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following, subscribing, and sharing if you haven't done so already, because that's how this podcast grows. Your support means the world to us, and together we can continue to spread the message of audacity and personal empowerment. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.